Mpirical provide compelling, interactive learning across a range of delivery options. Live on site, live online, or online anytime, we have a training course that is ideal for you. For a no-obligations chat about your training requirements, contact us at mpirical.com.
The concept of spectrum sharing has been around for a long time. However, it's only recently that it's becoming a very hot topic. So what is spectrum sharing? So here we have some radio spectrum, and that's obviously going from very low frequencies to the very high frequencies. Broadly, you've got three types of allocation when it comes to radio spectrum. The most common is referred to as licensed spectrum. So the service provider has paid for the use of that spectrum. Good examples of that can be anything from your car radio through to 2G, 3G, 4G radio systems, and even the latest 5G radio systems. Majority of those are licensed spectrum. So the service provider has been allocated a proportion of a band for use for a period of time. And that period of time is usually based on their contract of maybe 10 or 20 years or even longer. We also have the concept of unlicensed spectrum. A good example of unlicensed spectrum would be Wi-Fi. So in the Wi-Fi spectrum, 2.45 gigahertz bands, you'll typically find other systems as well, other Wi-Fi systems, but also other radio technologies such as Bluetooth, for example. And then finally, we have the concept of shared spectrum. What is shared spectrum? And the key thing here is it's all about sharing the spectrum. It's about sharing it in the time domain, the frequency domain, and possibly based on location as well. So let's have a look at that in action. So given that we will possibly have some licensed spectrum already in place, so that would be like an incumbent provider. So for example, providers A, B and C might have some allocation lasting 20 years, for example. But then we have some new spectrum coming along, and the local government looking after that spectral allocation decides that new entrants can come along, but rather than give them a license that lasts 20 years, what we can do is say, well, you can use this portion of the spectrum for a short period of time. And I've got D and E operating. But the key thing is based on some time-based allocation, it might then change, so E gets more, and then D and E are both sharing it. You might say, how can they share it? Well, at the same frequency and time, they could be physically separated in different parts of the country. And then it's back to E again. As new entrants come in, what we can start thinking about is saying, yes, you can now have a piece of that allocation, that shared spectrum. Now, that can carry on, and potentially when the incumbent allocation expires, say in 20 years' time, you might find that allocation also becomes available and is now part of the shared spectrum concept, with various mixtures of the different service providers being able to utilize that spectrum in different time, frequency, and location-based allocations.
Need to know more? Why not visit our store, where you can choose from over 200 hours of video-based training. Alternatively, you can contact us to discuss any specific training requirements you may have.